Hello and welcome to the first Books in Bed for Looking for Alaska by John Green. It is a novel and it is John Green's first book that he wrote. So I'm pretty excited. I have read his other book, his most recent one, and loved it, so I was like, might as well just go back from the beginning, start it out. So for this section, we're going to be talking about pages 1 to 44. I couldn't tell where my hand was for a second. And yeah, this Books in Bed is going to be a little bit different with the 1984 one. It was kind of just like me reviewing it and going over it since it was a book that I had read before. But now it's a little bit different because hopefully we're all reading it for the first time together, or hopefully you're the one that's rereading it. But for me, this is my first time, and I definitely like it so far. With books, it definitely does take like the first 30 pages for you to really kind of recognize if you're going to want to continue reading it, like the entire thing. And going into this with that first 44 pages, definitely loved it, want to continue reading. And I don't know, it's a very easy breezy read for me compared to 1984, which is like kind of dense. And yeah. So starting out, let's see. So of course, as always, I've got like my notes that I take while I'm reading, so I can pretend like I know what I'm talking about. But my first note that I made was, even before the book starts, that we know two things automatically. One, there's going to be an adventure of some kind, and then two, Alaska, the character, really is all of those things that were listed on the back of the book. It's like, if you watch my video before, like the little intro that was like, hey, this is the book we're doing, they describe the character Alaska Young as gorgeous, clever, funny, sexy, self-destructive, screwed up, and utterly fascinating. And so you read that back cover and you're like, what? Who's this chick? And then you get reading and you're like, oh my gosh, she really is all of those things that the back cover described her as. And you're definitely really intrigued, like, who is this girl? Where did she come from? And where is she going to take us in this book? So, yeah, you know right off the bat that she is all of those things, because on the, like, even before the book starts, it is the first page. I really like books that do this, where it's like the first page before you get into a chapter one, or however the layout of a book is, if it's chapters or just kind of sectioned out. But before it even really starts, they have like not a prologue necessarily, because it's just like a little snippet from the book. I don't know what they're technically called, but called The Prank. And they're just talking about this idea and how they're going to go forward with this prank. And we find out that part of it, or like the main part of it, was Alaska's idea. So it's like, it's a pretty badass chick if she's hanging out with all these guys at a, what's it called, boarding school, and doing pranks with all the boys as well. So that was my first note. But then actually getting in to start reading it, I don't know how I feel about the character. The Colonel is his nickname. I don't even remember what his real name is, because for the rest of the book they reference, oh, Chip Martin, that's what it is. Just happened to go to the right page where it said it. Okay, so the main character of this book is Miles Halter. He is given the nickname Pudge, and at this boarding school, his roommate is the Colonel, also known as Chip. That's his real name. Thank you, someone in the comments. Yes, his name is Chip, and I don't know how I feel about him so far in these first 44 pages. I can't really tell if he is going to be like genuinely a really good friend, or if he's just going to be some dude and he's going to like stab Pudge in the back later for some bullshit. You just can't tell so far with these first 44 pages. He's kind of a weird dude, and I mean, I wouldn't consider him bipolar, but with his attitude with Pudge, he definitely like flip flops between like, yeah, you're my roommate, we're gonna do all these things together, and then there's other moments where he's like, don't expect me to have your entire social life in this school and blah blah. Like it's not his responsibility, which I kind of understand, but I don't know, kind of flip flopping because then he does invite him to do all this stuff, but then doesn't invite him to do certain other stuff. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Colonel? Do you think he is a good guy? He's going to be a good friend? Or not? Should we not even trust him at all? Because it's kind of like with 1984, there were some characters in the beginning where we had this exact discussion. We're like, should we trust them? And then in the end, you didn't want to trust them. They ended up being bad. So is that what it's going to be like with the Colonel? One major thing that I love so much about this book is like a main kind of like ribbon theme throughout it is that the main character, Miles or Pudge, whatever you want to call him, his like thing that he's really into is people's last words. And so throughout the book, I'm sure it's going to stay this like ribbon theme, whatever you want to call it, because it happens several times in the first 44 pages, this section that we're reading and discussing now. And there's just like sprinklings here and there of people's, mostly famous people's, last words. And they are so interesting. They're so interesting. Most of them I hadn't heard before. And this is definitely something that I'm really enjoying while reading this, because it's like, yeah, you get into the story and the flow and everything, and you really enjoy like everything in that realm, but then you get like some realness outside of the story, and you kind of like learn something new. Yes, someone in the comment mentioned JFK's last words they discuss. Let me see if I can find it in the pages, because it's like pretty ironic. Oh, here it is. I did find it. Yay. Okay. So it's when he is talking to Alaska and like really starting to like fall in love with this girl. And she says, "So do you really memorize last words?" She ran up beside me and grabbed my shoulder and pushed me back into the porch swing. "Yeah," I said, and then hesitantly I added, "You want to quiz me?" "JFK," she said. "That's obvious," I answered. "Oh, is it now?" she asked. "No, those were his last words." Someone said, "Mr. President, you can't say Dallas doesn't love you." And then he said, "That's obvious." And then he got shot. Like, what? That is so crazy. That seriously the last thing that JFK said was "that's obvious." And then government conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, his brains were blown out. So, I don't know, just little sprinklings like that throughout this book I really enjoy, and had to make a note of that. But moving on to the actual book, my next note, Alaska is pretty hot and cold with Pudge / Miles, so you're not sure how she really feels. Sometimes she's super flirty with him, and then other times she's like super nonchalant, like when the prank happened with Miles / Pudge. How do you guys want me to refer to him? Should I call him Miles or should I call him Pudge? Because it's like, yes, his name is Miles, but then nicknames, and especially at boarding schools, like, it's your identity. It's really important. So, I don't know, I guess I'll just call him Pudge. You guys let me know down below in the comments what I should refer to him as. But yeah, she's super hot and cold. Like, other times they have that super connection, like when they're on the porch swing together. Not porch swing, but some sort of swing, I don't know. And they're talking and they have that moment with the last quotes and everything. And then when he gets pranked and he gets thrown into the river, the lake, she goes to him and is like kind of vulnerable and looking for a friend or like a shoulder or something. And she just like shuts him down and is like, nope, like that's just what happened. Super cold. She kind of later apologizes for it because she didn't know the whole story behind his prank and why he got thrown in. But another weird thing about her is she has this boyfriend that she is constantly mentioning, and she has this one line that she says over and over, which is really weird, and is like, it'll be a situation, something will come up, and she'll be like, oh, well, too bad I love my boyfriend so much. And for me, that's a red flag, because as a girl, you wouldn't really need to have to say those things like, oh, well, I love my boyfriend so much. If you really did, it would kind of just like be there and be emulated through your actions and not necessarily your words. So, I don't know. I feel like Alaska's a little weird for her whole boyfriend situation. I don't really understand what's going on with that. Um, but then towards the end of this section, in pages 1 to 44 that we're discussing now, she calls Pudge adorable. And I don't know. It was like this moment because the flame in Pudge's heart is like there's a flame going for Alaska. Like we know that. We know he likes her and he's like infatuated with her essentially. But then that like moment that he gets from her where he's like, "Oh my god, this is like attention that he's been craving and wanting for so long." So you kind of think that there's something else there. Definitely. Um Next point is that whole prank that happened with Pudge. First of all, you think that it's just like an initiation type thing. Wake someone up in the middle of the night, throw them in the lake, and then whatever, haha, you're all wet in the middle of the night and you have to go walk back to your dorm. But it's different with Pudge. They actually tape him with duct tape, so his arms are like this, and they tape his feet and then throw him in. So he could have drowned. Like, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't make it that, I don't know, I feel like John Green could have gone into a little bit more detail of, like, panic, because I feel like Pudge is the type of character where he would really fucking panic if he was duct taped and then thrown. Like, I don't know, there wasn't a sense of urgency when he was like, oh my god, am I gonna drown? Like, I don't know, it kind of was a quick section of the book, and then it was done. But the whole reasoning behind it, we find out, is because they think the people that did it were. They think that his roommate, the Colonel, was responsible for ratting on these two people. I wrote down their names. Paul and Myra. So Paul and Myra are these two characters that got kicked out at the end of last school year. And they think that the Colonel is the one that ratted them out. And so, in order to punish the Colonel, they punished Pudge and threw him all taped up. So now they're looking for revenge and figuring out who exactly did this to him. And I don't know. Definitely something is going to go about this. The whole situation with Paul and Myra, I kind of loved that it was like the triple threat, the three things they were doing. They were caught naked together, they were smoking, and then what was the third thing? Was it just like being alone in the dorm room together? I can't remember. What was the third thing? So it was like they were naked and genitals were touching, and they were smoking a joint. What was the third thing? What made it a trifecta for Paul and Myra? I can't remember. It's totally slipping me now. Help me in the comments below if you know. But yeah, that was pretty badass for sure. If you're like not kicked out for just one thing or two things, but you've got a trifecta. Okay, so yeah, there was the whole prank and thrown in the lake. Do we think that someone really did rat out Paul and Myra, or is it just like something that happened and it was like, oh, they kind of just got caught and that's just what naturally happened? But poor Pudge, I feel so bad that he got punished for it. Even if it wasn't the Colonel, like Pudge had nothing to do with that. He's just his roommate. Poor Pudge. Okay, let's see. We're at 14 minutes. I think I am going to keep this one a little bit short just because, I don't know. It's only 44 pages we're talking about. So I only have 2 more little points. I always have my hand off camera and I don't notice till it's too late and it's kind of awkward. Okay, so this discussion that Pudge and Alaska have is referring to the Labyrinth, and she has like her favorite author or whatever. Like she actually knew his last words. He's a poet. And so my question for you guys is, what do you think the Labyrinth is referring to? Is it life or death, or is it the combined journey of it all? Like, that's kind of the question that Alaska posed to Pudge, like asking, what is this labyrinth? Is it life and that is our labyrinth, or is it afterlife and it's death and that's what the whole labyrinth is about? So, yeah, what do you think? I mean, honestly, I feel like we're going to get some more information, obviously, as we read on, but just with, like, my mindset and how I feel right this minute with, like, the information that we've been given, I feel like it's most likely not so black and white, like life and death. I feel like it is the combined journey of it all. Like, that's what makes it a labyrinth, is it's intense and continuous. So it's not going to be just one life to death. It's going to be all of it together. And then, okay, I'm going to leave you with one question that I have, because I don't know if it's something that I missed in the book. I don't know if they actually did define it, or if they're going to define it later and I didn't miss it. So I am wondering, they keep referring to weekend warriors. Is it weekend warriors or week warriors? I don't know, something about warriors. I'm pretty sure it's weekend warriors. They call them, and it's like a certain subset of people at Culver Creek, the boarding school. Weekday, there it is, I found it. Okay. Weekday warriors. So I don't remember if they defined who or what makes you a weekday warrior. Did I just miss that? Did I like skim over it and wasn't really fully paying attention? Or is it something that they're going to define for us later? Like who these people are, what makes you a weekday warrior, how do you become a weekday warrior? I don't even know. I don't know if it's something that I completely missed or what. So yes, that is it for this section of Looking for Alaska. Thank you so much for joining me. So let's see, we ended on page 44, but like in the middle of the book, so we're going to start reading right there, and then we're ending, let me see, can't remember exactly, 82? Okay, so don't quote me on this right now. Ah, that's what it is! Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes, okay, someone in the comments, yes, okay, it's all coming back to me now. They did define what makes a weekday warrior, and it's like pretty much the rich people at the boarding school. They've got parents that kind of live nearby or in the town itself that the boarding school's at, and so every single weekend they go home to their parents' house, and they don't necessarily really live in their dorm all the time. So they are weekday warriors because they're just at the school during the week when it's like a boarding school, so you would think technically you'd be there all the time. Someone's asking what the name of the book is. It is Looking for Alaska by John Green. And yeah, that concludes pages 1 to 44 discussion. Okay, don't quote me on this. I will correct myself later. I don't have it written down like right in front. Oh wait, no, I do. Haha. Okay, 1 second. I do. Okay, so we're going to page 88. Okay, haha. Huzzah! I did it. Okay. So for next week's section, shoot, what's the date? So it's going to be the 18th. So I will see you guys next week for the next installment of Books in Bed. And we are going to be finishing page 44. Obviously, I showed you right there. And we're ending on page 88. It's going to end right there. So going to be reading for that section next week. Oh my gosh, thank you guys. See, this is why I love having it be like an interactive book club. Thank you guys so much for being in the comments section. I can't believe I forgot to mention the burrito, which is another like key thing with this book. The what's it called? Boarding school. The boarding school is in Alabama, so it's like super typical Southern area. Obviously, Alabama is like the heart of the South, and he's like experiencing all this fried food his first week at school, like fried chicken and fried okra and all this. And there's one thing that like blew his mind, and it's super delicious, and it blew my mind. And that was the burrito, and that's essentially just a bean burrito that has been deep fried, so it's all crunchy. I think we call them chimichangas in California. I don't know if everyone else does, but yeah, a deep fried burrito, we call them chimichangas. They call them burritos. Sounds delicious either way. I definitely wish I could have one. And yes, that concludes this week's Books in Bed, the interactive book club. Again, we're reading Looking for Alaska by John Green. We just finished discussing pages 1 to 44, and next week we're going to be discussing up to page 88. So again, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye.